every single thing is just a phase, and there's longer phases and shorter phases. But the more you realize that it's all a phase, like the easier it gets to get through the hard ones.
I don't have a parenting question to start with. I have a spousal question to start with, which is...
No pressure.
Have you listened to a single episode of any of my podcasts?
You have a podcast?
You haven't, have you? Like, I couldn't even... Like, I would actually have to brief you more than I would a normal guest on what we do.
Like, specifically your podcast or you on someone else's podcast?
I know you've listened to me on other podcasts, but I don't think you listen to any of the work that I put out.
Have I?
I think so, maybe once.
You may brief me.
All right, so what's something you do as a parent that you want to stop doing?
Wait, I thought I was going to get briefed.
It's no brief, it's a podcast. It's just people talking.
I don't listen to any podcast. I don't actually know.
All right, it's just people talking.
That's what I'm trying to stop doing as a parent.
Yeah, what's something what's something you're like, you know what, I would like, that's a bad habit. That's like a thing that I don't think is productive. That's like something I picked up from my parents. Like that's a thing I don't want to do anymore.
I think something I'm trying to stop doing as a parent is distract myself away from like being present with the kids, or distract myself away from like existing in time or existing in space with the kids.
What does that mean?
Or like, let's say like, I'm just going to use this morning as an example, or I'm trying to like use the mornings as an example. Like, I think it's really easy to see getting the kids ready for school, or like see the mornings as like this like finite amount of time where we have like a lot of things that we need to get done. Mm-hmm. And like mornings I think are an easy example for like everybody, because it's like, okay, we have to get ready for work, we have to pack lunches, we have to like whatever. But I think it's also easy to cram a lot of other stuff into doing those into that. Like I also need to like start laundry or like whatever. But then you can like cram other things in. Like I also need to like start a to-do list, or I need to like check my phone for like A, B, and C, or I need to like whatever. And then I'm trying to be intentional about the I need tos are less important and can wait until after the kids are not in the house.
I see what you're saying. So it's like sometimes I say to myself, like work or kid-wise, it's like, this is what you're doing. You don't have to be doing anything else.
Right.
So it's like getting ready for school is its own important thing. Like sometimes like when I have travel days, it's actually like good for me, because I'm like, literally all I have to do today is get to Detroit by 2 p.m. Like if I get to Detroit by 2 p.m., then I can do the thing I have to do tomorrow. Like that's like at the most basic level, success today is like getting from point A to point B. And then it's like anything extra I get in there is great, but that's all I have to do. But sometimes it'll be like, and then I have to do this, and then I have to do this. And then like I'm stressed out, I'm not doing the main thing well. And like really, if I'm judging, if at the end of the day, all that's going to matter is, did I get to the place that I need to get? Like, did we get him to school, yes or no?
Right.
You didn't also have to do like 30 other things.
And I think that you and I run into this a lot because we work together. Mm-hmm. And we don't get a lot of time during the day to connect about really anything. And so at the end of the day, when we're actually in the house together, we have a whole to-do list full of stuff that we have to get done.
Yeah.
Like we have to get it done because there are people that depend on us in a very big way. And projects that depend on us in a very big way. But sometimes, like, so do our kids, and a lot of times, so do our kids. Like a lot, they could be playing upstairs, and we can knock things off of our to-do list. But our kids could be having a really hard time, and we have things that like need to get knocked off our to-do list, and we have to very intentionally look at each other and be like, this has to wait until our kids go to bed, because our kids need to be prioritized right now. And so, but we need to like connect on that and be like, there's a needs to get done and like has to get done. And like we navigating that is like an ever-changing shift. And like I think I'm trying to get better at like we have to prioritize just waiting until there's space when like our kids are not in the environment with us until we take care of this, because it's like adding stress for them.
A lot of the stuff just doesn't matter at all. Like you think it's like I think because you and I do a lot of like business stuff where it's like, you know, this person wants this piece of paperwork, or they wanted to know this thing or whatever. And I think one of the things we've gotten more comfortable with as we've gotten more successful and done it more times is it's like this person over here is actually just trying to get you to do their job. Like if you don't do it, they'll do it. If you don't get back right away, they'll follow up. Like,
Right.
and so it's like you get these inbound things like, hey, I need this from you or whatever, but they don't actually need it. And the consequences for not providing it timely are like zero. This isn't to say you can be a jerk or whatever, but it is going like, why are you letting this person who's like, like, how many times do we get things like from the accountant or bookkeepers or whatever, and you're like, you already have this,
Right.
and so it's like you're interrupting, say, getting ready with the kids in the morning, or just watching TV together, or hanging out, or just having 2 minutes of time to yourself. You're interrupting that to give someone something that they already have, and so to be able to be like, this doesn't matter. This can definitely wait.
Right. And like the consequences, of that stress trickles down to the kids.
Yeah, they can feel that you're multitasking.
Well, and I think that it's like easy to see, or sometimes it can be really hard to see. Like sometimes they're like our stress is evident only in their behavior.
Yes,
Like
right.
their
Behavior is the language of children. They don't know what they're feeling or why they're feeling it, but something happened and that has affected the energy or the vibe in the house.
Yeah. So something that I'm working on as a parent is to try, like in our house, when like it is obvious that something is off, or just like trying to prioritize. Like, and I think that it could be the stress, like the stress in our house could just be, even at the end of the day or the beginning of the day or whatever, we've amped it up, and like we get to a point where people are asking us for things and we're just like, we've got to knock all this stuff off so we can just reduce our stress. And then sometimes it just has to be like, we need to pause. I think that's like probably our overall theme in parenting, is that like sometimes we just need to pause and understand that like either it needs to get pushed aside so we could just focus on what we have in front of us, which is our kids, and reducing that volume in our house overall so we could just be present, and then handling what's in front of us, which is like them, and then dealing with all the other stuff later when it can, because it isn't as important no matter what it is.
Well, you gave me that recently. It's kind of one of the things I'm working on. You were like, because like I work at the office. I used to work at home. Now I work at the office. But then I try to like pick the kids up from school. So my day ends like, I'm oftentimes like I'll be home at like 3 or no, like 4, right? Mm-hmm. And like normal people, myself included, you can't, your day can't end at 4. Like not even banker's hours end at 4. So like I still have some work I have to do or phone calls I have to make. And your point was like, by doing that phone call in the living room, like, or by answering that email, like by putting the computer up on the counter or whatever, mm-hmm. I'm affecting the energy in the house. Like I'm multitasking. You're like, go outside or do it in the other room, because like they should be coming home from school and things should be calm and relaxing. They don't need like
your work
the 4
energy.
o'clock flurry of like, and by the way, it's never the nice calm stuff that's saved until 4. It's like that thing that someone's been hounding you about all day. It's almost always frustrating administrative stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's the worst stuff to be handling at home. So that I have been working on that.
It's also weird because some of that stuff just like is an adjustment. Like figuring out what those like the things that need to be handled versus don't need to be handled is like a huge adjustment. So like, and I think you and I are kind of in that phase right now, especially with the morning. So with really little kids, what needed to happen in our house in the morning was like I needed to be asleep. So
because you weren't sleeping through the night.
Because I wasn't sleeping through the night, or I wasn't really sleeping at all. So what needed to happen is that like you took the kids in the morning so I could actually get uninterrupted sleep.
Yeah.
And like that's shifting some slowly. So like I don't really need that anymore. So like
what you actually need is more time with the kids because they're gone during the day.
They're gone during the day. And so like but like I think the kids are having trouble adjusting to that change too. So like it's just a little bit of a strange adjustment period for all of us. So like this morning, like
let's not do that again. I don't think you're allowed to come on the morning walks. That did not go well. That was not the vibe.
They were not okay with me doing that. Like like you have your thing with the kids where you take a walk with them every morning. And I was like, okay, this is your thing, but like we're adjusting. You guys do your morning walks. I'm going to join the morning walk. And the kids were like not having it. It was like emotional dump for like 45 minutes.
Well, I also think that's because as I talk about the morning walk so people know about them, but like the morning walk is already in a transition. Like mm-hmm. First off, it was in a transition because like in the winter it's a little bit different because the weather, And I'm trying to be a little less like authoritarian, like this is the thing we do, weather permit, like irregardless of the weather. But also I was able, when our kids were younger, I was walking them, right? They were in a stroller, so I could put them in warm clothes, I could cover them up. I was walking them, and the walk meant something to me. It got them outside. You could sleep. It was a part of our routine, as a part of our life. It's something that means a lot to me. But what changed is now we are going on a walk together, and that requires, let's just say, a little bit more consent and a little bit more cat wrangling, and it's a different thing. So like you coming this morning was a change inside of a transition, and it was just let's just say an explosive combination that we should not do again for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh. Ugh.
Which I just got yelled at the whole time by both of our children.
Yes. Yes. It was a vibe shift, not a good one. But it is what it is. But I have been having, like, realizing that we're transitioning from me walking them, which is I could walk them for 3 miles. I'm actually having to like think about my diet and my day and my schedule and my routine, because all of a sudden an hour of walking I was getting every day is now, we can do about 20 minutes. And one of the things I tell them is like, guys, like, you want to go to Disneyland this summer and you want to spend a lot of it not in a stroller.
You have to be like,
you have to
condition
can't,
for this.
Jones, you can't get tired by the time we get to the end of the driveway and ask to be carried. You have to like build this up. But
and then I go on the walk and they're like, immediately carry me.
He goes, I'm tired of walking. We're still in the garage, dude. But the point is, that's now a 20-minute walk at a slightly slower pace. Sometimes I get a little exercise because I do have to carry him most of the way. But the point is, I think realizing always, this is something you said to me, is like, nothing is stable. It's always a phase. And so like the walking phase was like a 4-year phase,
right? But
it's gone. And now it's a different, even though it's the same thing, it's a different version of that thing. And there's like a little bit of grieving in that for me, but also just adjustment and flexibility. And then I'm just having to realize, like, if I am getting something out of the walking, I have to take my own walk during the day.
Right, but that's also something that we talked about when you were in that phase. I mean, I think we talk about this all the time with just general parenting, and like the longer we're in this, the more that we realize it, that every single thing is just a phase, and there's longer phases and shorter phases. But the more you realize that it's all a phase, like the easier it gets to get through the hard ones, right?
It gets easier to get through the hard ones, and it should make you take the ones that you're in a little bit more seriously, the good ones, because it's like you only get 3 years of doing this thing or 3 months of doing this thing, and like it's going to be gone. So if you resented it or you took it for granted, or you were excited about what the next thing was, like you only get a 14-year-old for 1 year, right? And then they're a 15-year-old,
right?
And then eventually you get a 40-year-old, but like you only get the thing that they are for a day, a week, a month. Like none of it's all transitory and ephemeral and changing. And so it's like when they're babies, right? When your kids are babies, you're like, oh, I can't wait for them to stop walking. But what never seems to occur, when your kids are babies, you say, I can't wait for them to start walking. But what doesn't occur to you, because you're excited about the next thing, is that means they stop crawling. And, you don't realize that the thing you're excited about, being excited about it, is inherently rushing you through the thing that's now that you will miss.
Yeah, I mean, you're grieving like the whole time you're parenting. Parenting's a trip.
Parenting is a trip.
But the thing that I was going to remind you of is the whole time that we were walking, even just Clark, when Clark was a baby, like a very little baby, or even walking him when he was in like his little like baby carrier. It was you talking about like how you can't wait for Clark to be old enough for you to go on runs with him. So to be,
yes, you're right.
So
yes,
to be on a phase,
sure.
and like he's a runner. So like to be even now, or he does run, but like to be thinking about how you're grieving this like period of parenting, or that period of
you're
going
also
on a
looking
walk with
forward
him,
to
like
what it means.
you have been like craving this period in the future, which I guess is like
that's
parenting
right.
in a nutshell.
That's beautiful.